Hey, this is Stephanie.
And I'm Nina.
And you're listening to Live by the Spirit podcast.
Hello.
Hi.
Oh no, my phone dropped against my mic in that first wave like this from my phone hitting my... Oh well.
Well, welcome back. We were out last week.
Yes.
Life was crazy.
Just dropped my mic on my mouth.
Well, we got together to record, and then we
didn't record.
We had a bestie night, and it was a much needed bestie night.
We just really weren't feeling the recording this week.
That's okay. We had been talking about for so long having our annual Anne with an E October night, and we had it, and it was great. And now
even though it wasn't in October,
it's okay. But now I can move on to Christmas and be
I
happy.
will not be moving on to Christmas until after Thanksgiving.
This is where we differ.
Yes.
But anyways,
yeah,
we're back.
We're back and better than ever.
Yes.
Time change and all.
Oh, yes. That was crazy. It's so funny because we went over to our friend Genesis's apartment on Saturday night, and I remember I walked in, and it was like almost 8 o'clock, and I made a comment just about how tired I was, and just like, and I don't remember who made the comment about having to get up early, but she was like, hey, remember, time change. So it's actually 7:30, or it's actually, I think it was 7:30. She's like, it's actually 6:30. It's not instead of 7:30. So she kept reminding us the whole rest of the night. She's like, it's actually.
Yeah, and I actually
10,
didn't really remember that was happening.
Oh, I totally forgot.
So when I got home, it was 1:15, but it was 12:15. So it was so nice. And then I watched the clock. So I watched it go to 1:59. Then I watched it glitch and go to 1 o'clock.
Yeah.
It was super funny.
I think I did that last year. I was out and about late, but anyways, this week we are talking about a very fun topic. I'm a 7, so I enjoy this topic so much. I say sarcastically.
Get into it, girl.
How to handle people who do not like you. Ooh.
Now, see, I can say I do a good job of this.
I don't. Or I haven't in the past, I should say.
I really don't like... Well, here's the thing. I think that there's, like, justifiable reasons as to why people don't like me. Like, if I've hurt people in the past, etc., etc. I understand if you maybe don't want to be, close or whatever. Totally get it. But when people just don't like you for literally no reason...
Yeah.
That's, like...
And then...
the one thing that really will then bug me. Yeah.
What inspired this topic was a book I'm reading, Is It Just Me by Grace Valentine. I love her. I love her books. This is her second book she ever wrote. But yeah, she talked about a time where she just had a coworker who just didn't like her for no apparent reason. And I think we've all had moments in our lives where it's just like there's someone who just does not like you. And then for me, because I have a problem and I want to be liked so badly, I think, okay, well, how can I make this person like me? How can I, should I bring them a coffee one day? Should I just be overly nice to them? Should I help them out if I notice that their workload's heavy, and just do all this different stuff? And when they are still reacting the same way to me, I'm like, I've noticed in the past, I almost change my personality to fit the mold of what I think that they'll like. And sometimes that works and sometimes it doesn't. But the older I've gotten to realize it's well, I shouldn't have to change myself to get someone to like me.
Yeah.
In general. And that's just that's in many different facets. That's not just that random person that just doesn't like you for a reason. That's also in relationships. If a guy doesn't like me because of a certain personality trait, so I change that personality trait to get him to like me,
but that's not you.
Then it's not me, and I'm not being authentically myself. But yeah, crazy though. I feel like lately, the closer I've gotten with Jesus, the less I've cared if a person likes me or not. Have you felt that?
Yeah, I also think it's if people don't like me, I feel like I just don't notice it as much. So like also I feel like one thing you said like 5 minutes before we started recording, which was super funny, is you're like, apparently according to Instagram Wrapped, over 12 people have blocked me this year.
Yes.
And I also, when I did my Instagram Wrapped, it said I had 12 people in the last year that have blocked me.
Who doesn't like us, Nina?
But who cares?
I wonder if that was real or not. Or it's curious to me that we had the exact same numbers.
Well,
That makes
Genesis had only 4.
maybe it's the same 12 people.
It probably isn't. But if you think about it, one thing that I noticed recently, probably over the last 3 or 4 months, the more I post, like, you know, my Bible or, you know, certain passages, worship songs, me sharing things like Jesus related, the more I do that, the more followers I lose, which makes sense. Totally get that. Especially if you're not around to see that content. Maybe I'm not the person you want to follow. But it was funny. Like, I don't remember when it was, but it was maybe like 2 months ago. I posted something on my story, some Bible, I don't know, something, me reading my Bible, sharing whatever, and I lost like 3 followers that day. It was super funny. I'm like, it's not like this is a new thing for me, but I think the more that I've been, like you said, getting closer with Jesus, the more I'm in my word, the more I'm likely to share that on my story, because, you know, I want social media to be a reflection of the life I actually live. I don't want it to just be, oh, this is just some person I am, but then, you know, who I am in person is completely different. So I think that, you know, if you don't want to follow me, that's fine, you know, and actually doesn't really bother me at all anymore. I think it used to, but not anymore.
Yeah, I think also, if I sound congested, I promise I'm not sick anymore. It's just that time of night where allergies really hit me. So that's fun. I had to keep blowing my nose last night at this worship night. I think as I've gotten older, I've noticed that even friendships that I've had, I'll notice that a person will start to almost not like me as much anymore because of how different I've become and how it's polar opposite to what they are used to me being like, or different things like that. And it's just learning to you know, deal with that. I think a really good breakdown, again, please get Is It Just Me by Grace Valentine. She has some really great things, but one thing for me that really stood out was her like number one thing she has to how to handle when someone doesn't like you. She says, let them talk. And it reminded me
What does she mean by let them talk? Like, what does she go into in that section?
I'll get into it by this thing. But it reminded me of Matthew 5, starting in verse 38. You have heard that it was said, an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth. But I tell you, don't resist an evildoer. On the contrary, if anyone slaps you on your right cheek, turn the other to him also. As for the one who wants to sue you and take away your shirt, let him have your coat as well. And if anyone forces you to go 1 mile, go with him 2. Give to the one who asks you, and do not turn away from the one who wants to borrow from you. And I felt like that perfectly sums up what she was talking about in Let Them Talk, because I think for me sometimes when someone doesn't like me, and we're having a disagreement, or I'm feeling protective, or I don't know, just in some form of we're battling in some way, my first reaction is to stand up for myself. Growing up, I used to allow people to walk all over me, and I hit a point in college where I was like, no, I'm done letting people walk all over me. So I started standing up for myself, but I would then be lashing out at them and be giving them exactly what they were wanting, which was a reaction from me. And it clearly says in what we just read to not give them that satisfaction of a reaction. That is not the way that that's not how the Lord wants us to react in certain situations. And it almost will bug them more by you not giving them that reaction. And I can quote her here. She says, "But speak your mind is not always biblical. Speaking your mind gives the enemy an opportunity." This is so powerful. "To take someone else's sin and cause you to lose self-control and say something hurtful. When you do this, you are giving someone's sin the power to cause you sin." Isn't that insane? And like she also says, you do not need to justify ourselves to someone else's sin.
No.
Because I never thought about it that way, because it's very true. It's like if you're in the middle of an argument with somebody, and it was initially them speaking negatively to you and not Christ-like things to you, and then you are in turn trying to stand up for yourself or the people around you, but then you are lashing out at them, you are now sinning. You just fed into the enemy. And I just thought that was such a powerful thing that I could relate to, that I had done in the past. And I just thought it really, and it clearly says, again, what we just read, like, you need to turn like, we've heard that before our whole lives, like, you have to turn the other cheek. But I didn't truly understand the power of it until I read that. Sorry, I just talked a boatload. So what's your 2 cents in all this?
I think that reminds me of when you said, trying to think of the words you use. I'm not going to try to paraphrase what you said, but
It's okay.
It makes me think of Romans 12, that whole section, 9-21, but specifically 20, it says, "If your enemy is hungry, feed him.
Mm-hmm.
If he is thirsty, give him something to drink, for by doing so, you'll be heaping burning coals onto his head."
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, by you serving your enemy, you are already just making him more angry.
Yeah.
Because ultimately, we're called to serve and we're called to love others. And I think that needs to be our immediate response instead of lashing out at people, because it is so easy, because that is our pride that doesn't want us to.
Mm-hmm.
It's so hard, because it's like, it's just like when somebody calls you out on something and you know that you're wrong, but the admitting that you're wrong to somebody, you can admit it to yourself, but admitting it to other people takes form of, like, you need to bring yourself low and be humble, and it's very difficult to do that. So in this context with your enemy, if they don't like you, that's okay. We still need to love. And what does it say in 1 Corinthians? When we're called to love, we're called to be patient and kind. We're called to serve those around us, especially those who don't like us. And Matthew 5:43, "You've heard it said, you shall love your neighbor and hate your enemy. But I say to you, love your enemies and pray for those who persecute you." So it's like, just because they don't like us, just because they might, be against us, doesn't mean we shouldn't be loving them and praying for them.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's a really good, like, the last part you just said, because I have found myself, like, because I can give examples of just people. Like, I remember there's this one girl on one of my floors my freshman year of college who just did not like me, like, never gave me a reason why. It's just whenever I walked into the room, it was just like eye rolls at everything I said, I could hear her, like, mimicking the way I talked and different things like this. And I tried everything to get this girl to like me. I tried just being super nice to her, kind of like I was talking about earlier, like, bringing her coffee, like, or like different things like this, and just trying my hardest to please her and to make her like me. And to me, I was like, oh, I'm doing everything that it says in the Bible. It's like, oh, like, feed your enemy and everything like that. But what I was doing was, and this is, like, I think something that a lot of us deal with, is what I was doing was what I was talking about earlier, is I was trying to change myself and to please her, and that's not what God calls us. God calls us to do exactly you said. I should have been praying over her. Like, I still needed to be nice to her, but I didn't need to be, like, changing the way I talked when I was around her, or going out of my way to do favors for her if she was just gonna be mean and all that stuff. And I hope she's doing well. Don't know what she's doing right now, but yeah. And I think once you kind of get that mentality in your brain, it's also super easy to forgive and move forward. Because I know I've definitely had that issue in the past of having a hard time with friends and getting into arguments and no longer being friends with people, but still holding on to anger.
So this is so wild. the other day, it was Saturday, I was in a conversation, and our friend Josiah had made this point, and he had said, you know, I'm trying to think of how he phrased it, but in a sense, you know, every sin that we commit, you know, it's like at one point we commit that sin now, and then it's done. But with unforgiveness, when we don't forgive, that sin continues on over time, because, you know, it's something that you're choosing every day to still be angry and upset and not forgive other people. So that sin of unforgiveness continues over time. And it literally says in the Bible that if we forgive others, God will forgive us.
Yeah.
It says that in Matthew 6. So it's like, but if we don't forgive others, it says, it literally says in Matthew 6, 14 and 15, if you forgive others their trespasses, your heavenly Father will also forgive you. But if you do not forgive the others and their trespasses, neither will your Father forgive your trespasses. So it's like, we need to forgive. It does not matter if people don't like us. We need to choose forgiveness. We need to walk in that, because, you know, that sin's going to last. And that's the one thing that, you know, God says to do. We need to forgive.
Well, also with that, it's so crazy how this all tied back to this like Devo book that I read that, you know, I quoted earlier. But when you don't forgive for, you know, some, you know, let's just say hypothetically, Nina and I had a falling out. We got someone hurt someone. I won't put anything out there, and we don't forgive, it's going to make trusting a lot hard. I mean, trusting can be hard regardless of forgiving or not, but it's going to be easier to find trust in other people when you have that forgiveness, because you know that's like, okay, I'm going to forgive what happened and we're going to move forward and all these things. And I really liked what Grace said, that time doesn't heal all wounds, but Jesus does. You don't have to trust the same people who hurt you, but trust the people God put in your life. And then it's, if your desire is to have godly friendships that reflect him, he will give them to you in his timing. And I just really love that, because that's been so true in my life. I mean, just go freaking listen to my testimonial episode about, you know, me having all these problems I'm talking about right now of people not liking me or me having to change to please others is literally all stemming from when I got bullied in high school by my supposed friends at the time. And just me praying every night that I had friends that truly loved me and would be there for me no matter what. And it wasn't until this past May, which that's been like 10 years since I said that prayer, that I heard the Lord say, this is your answered prayer. This is everything you prayed for when you were 16 years old. And I just thought that was so beautiful. And it's because I finally, after all that time, forgave those girls, and truly forgave those girls, and was like, it wasn't them, it was the enemy in their ear. And then I just honestly allowed it to continue, because I kept feeding into it, because I kept trying to please them. I kept trying to change who I was to reflect what they wanted me to be. And I was not then seeking what God wanted me to be, if that makes sense. And that she also says, sorry, I keep quoting this book, but everything she said, she summarizes it great. She says, never allow your identity to depend on someone else's mean thought about you. When you allow someone's sin to write your identity, you're rejecting God's truth.
Yeah. And I just also had a really great conversation the other day about value versus worth. Because oftentimes, like, we struggle with like our self-worth, and like, what does worth really mean? And worth is monetary value. So what is something worth physically is like, how much money is something worth? So it's like, okay, my pen, pack of 5 of my Sharpie gel pens is $5. Okay, cool. That's the monetary value of this pen. What's the monetary value of the microphone I'm speaking into? What's the monetary value of this? Well, what is the monetary value of us? Because it says that we were bought with a price. That price was Jesus's life. So it's like, we were bought with that price. Therefore, our value is, you know, priceless because of what that is. Whereas value, on the other hand, is like what you can give to other people. So in like friendships that we have now, in like, you know, relationships with our parents, relationships with, you know, a significant other, what can we give to that person? And I feel like, you know, in this community that we're in now, we all give a lot of, you know, we all have different spiritual gifts, and we're all able to, you know, bring those together into, you know, our church, our community. But the thing is, worth is fixed. Worth doesn't change, but value changes from person to person because we all have different value, because we all give different things. But worth is never changing. And so it's like, if we find our worth, our identity in people who think low of us, you know, then we believe that we are not priceless, but we really are. And that's like, then comes to the whole talk of like, where are you finding your identity? You know, where is that lying? Is it lying in the truth of Jesus and what he did for you? Because that's where we find our worth, not in what other people believe about us.
Yeah, no, it's so true. Like, and I think, and obviously it's, I keep forgetting, like, I'm almost about to be 26. That feels so old. It's not old. It's not old, but like, in how my, like, just how, because I think the pandemic really like messed up some years for a lot of us, and I think we just grew up a lot faster than we would have liked to in certain areas. But it is just really crazy that it's taken me this long to really realize all that. And like, I'll be 26 in January, and when I was dealing with all of this, when I was dealing with, for the first time, struggling with my identity, was when I was 16. And like, trying, like I said, trying to do all those things and trying to fit a mold of, well, they're saying I'm not smart, so I either need to really study really hard to prove them wrong, or I'm going to feed into this character and be that dumb friend and make those jokes, and that's what I found to be easiest, because every time I tried to prove myself, it never ended up working out. So I ended up trying to fit this mold of that like dumb friend, of like the Karen of the friend group, and all that, and now I'm just, obviously I'm happy I got through it and everything is great, but it's crazy it's taken me as long as it had to finally be like, no, like, my identity's from Christ. I know who I am, and I'm finally at that point also, and you can probably speak into this too, where it's like, if you don't like who I am, then we do not have to be in the same circle.
Yeah.
Like, nothing's forcing us to hang out outside of, like, you know, whether, you know, sometimes, you know, you may have a coworker, sometimes, you know, this, that, or then some, but it's like, nothing's forcing us to hang out, like, outside of that for pleasure anymore. And I'm at that age too. It's like, you know, I'm not stuck with these people in school anymore, so it's not like I have to be nice to people. I'm not saying not to be nice, that's not what I meant, but like, I don't have to be pleasing to certain people, like, you know, all these things. And that for me has like been such a great, like, almost freedom, like, lift off the shoulder. If I walk into a circle of people and we're not vibing, I don't have to stay in that circle if I don't want to.
Yeah. And I think that, you know, it says that, you know, God made us in his image. And, you know, he says that we were very good. He didn't make mistakes. And it says, you know, we're fearfully, wonderfully made. He formed our inward parts. Like, there's so many scriptures, like, literally how he says that he loves us and we're precious in his eyes. And it's like, he doesn't say that just because he wants us to feel good about himself. Like feel good about ourselves. He wants us to really know that truth, because he means it when he says those things. He doesn't just say things. Like, we need to take him at his word and what he says. And, you know, it is really hard when we have this outside pressure of the world constantly telling us what we need to be. But if we're really looking to what the word says, if we're really in prayer, if we're really seeking really who God is, that's where we do find that identity and that worth. And it's like, it is hard, you know, when you're in high school, in college, to find that. So I don't think that you're old to be figuring that out that truth, because there are people that struggle with identity their entire lives. Yeah. So I think the fact that, you know, we're learning these things at the age that we're at, you know, I actually think that's good, because some people are going to be so unsure of themselves their whole lives. But if we're sure of ourselves right now, in Christ, that's good.
I think also since we're in the season of waiting for our spouse too, it's refreshing to learn all this now because, well, let me tell you, I have been that girl that has tried to change to get a guy to like her more times than I can count. And if you don't like it, if we just aren't gonna, you know, I'm like done with that. It's like the person that God has for me and who's out there somewhere in the world, wherever he is, like, he's going to love every part of me and gonna be okay with every part of me. And that's gonna be super refreshing because it's like I've found my friends that love me, and it's like, it's so crazy. I'm gonna get off on a tangent here for a second.
Oh no.
I'll be fast. But you know, our guy friends, they tease me in a similar way that I had friends tease me in high school. This, in a sense of, I'll say something and they'll make a joke out of it. The difference, though, is they do it out of place of love, and they would never cross that line.
Mm-hmm. And they know where the line is.
They know where the line is, and there have been times where I've had to have conversation, be like, hey, I love you, but, like, let's not make that joke anymore.
And they're always really receptive. They're like, I'm so sorry. Like, yeah.
But the difference with the people in high school was it came out of a very malicious tear down way. And so I lost where my tangent was going. I had it in my head and now I lost it.
You were talking about changing for people.
Oh, yeah. And so it's like, so in high school, I felt like I had to change. I was constantly thinking about, oh, crap, I need to watch what I say because I don't want to have like another quote unquote dumb blonde moment. And in our friend group, there have been very few times that I felt like I need to, you know, not. And because I know it's like, they love that part of me. Like, they love that part of me. The guys love that part of me. They love teasing me in a sense because that's just how our relationship is, and in a good way, and different things. It for the first time in my life, I feel like I have like brothers in my life. Like I didn't have that brotherly, like you had 2 brothers. I didn't have that. So I wasn't used to this with guys. But I think that's been such a beautiful thing too. And having friends that, no matter, like, and like, if someone says something to you not in a great way, they're going to be the first people to say, hey, let's not do that. And it's happened sometimes, you know, even within our friend group and different things where there's moments like, hey, let's, you know, calm down and different things. And it's great. And it's out of pure love. And so that's what I think we all need to be seeking, is in your community and your relationship with a spouse and your friendships and your family, is people that you can be your full authentic self identity through Christ with and feel confident in. Yeah.
And it's like, if I ever saw you changing for a guy, I would literally punch you in the face and be like, Stephanie, stop it.
Hey, it says turn the other cheek.
Oh my gosh. You want to be unhappy in a relationship? By all means. I'm trying to help you.
I know.
But I recently had a friend, start dating, and there was a joke made that was like, oh, they like you and you act like this. And that person was like, well, I mean, I'm just going to be myself.
Yeah.
So it's like, if you're not yourself, and if the person that, you're with doesn't accept that, then that's not the person. But if you have somebody, come into your life that truly, one, obviously our friends love who we are, but if we have somebody who is, interested in us exactly how we are, that's what it needs to be. And that's what we should be looking for. Why are you laughing?
I just had like this picture of like
I don't want to know.
Nina and I, like, just the things that we like to do with each other. Just one day we will be married and we'll get to do those things, like, with our spouses. Like, we'll make them watch Anne with an E with us. We'll make them listen to One Direction in the car. And, like, they'll love us, so they'll do it. And it's
hey,
just so
we also
funny.
have guy friends now who will listen to One Direction in the car with us.
I don't know if they'd watch Anne with an E with us, but that's okay.
Hey, I've never tried, actually.
We showed
I'm
Jude
actually gonna ask
Jude some clips a while back, Because I
But
remember
yeah,
he was
we
over
showed
here.
him clips because you think that Gilbert is Jude.
If anyone's ever watched Aaron with an E, Gilbert and our friend Jude do look very, very similar.
I see it and I also don't at the
certain,
same time.
Yes, exactly. There's
It's certain facial expressions. Yeah.
He does this thing with the eyebrows, and I'm like, that's a Jude face.
Yeah, that's true.
That
Hey,
is a Jude
wait,
face.
you know what I just equated that to? When I FaceTimed him, when I did my
Yes!
when I dyed my hair.
He's
the
exactly what he
eyebrows.
did. That
That's
was
the
a
Gilbert
Gilbert
eyebrow.
That was a Gilbert eyebrow express. Oh, okay.
I just made that connection right there.
okay. Yes,
That's so funny.
but it's
yeah.
got it, sorry, side tangent. But
I should ask Jonah to watch him. I feel like actually Jonah would watch it.
Jonah would like it.
I think he would.
But hey, I'm still
Anyways.
shocked we got some of the guys to watch The Summer and Turn Pretty, and I'm very happy about it.
Hey,
One of these days we'll get Judy to watch it too.
it'll be a fun time. I had a great time on the finale when we all got together and we all watched it. I think it was so
Hey.
so funny.
That going back to having a community that does things that we all enjoy.
Hey,
We had so much fun.
we watch a ton of things together. Coming up on the Lord of the Rings time of the year.
I know. I'm not the biggest Lord of the Rings fan, but you know
Yo,
what? I
Lord of the
go.
Rings is so good.
I go and maybe okay. So this will be my third or fourth time seeing the first movie, and this will be my second time watching the other two, and it'll be my first time watching the
non-extended versions. We're just watching theatrical
So,
versions this time.
I think I'm going to enjoy it way more.
Well,
way more.
You know, I think the main thing is when our friends talk through movies, which I'm sorry, I love all of our friends so deeply, but I really hate when people talk through movies. Like, I remember my first experience with that, other than Hunger Games, because it was like funny commentary, and that was like the first
Yeah.
movies we watched together. On my birthday last year, we watched my favorite movie of all time, and everybody talked through it, and I was so upset. I was like, and I didn't know you guys really at that point, so
Yeah.
I was like, this sucks.
Genesis and I just had a conversation with her roommate about this the other night. To me, because obviously I love to talk, I don't mind it if it's a movie that I've seen before. I've seen several times, because then it's like, yeah, it's funny to get the commentary. It's funny to get the jokes. I
Mhm.
remember we summer 2022, we watched like all through the Star Wars trilogy to prep for the Obi-Wan Kenobi show. That was funny to me to get certain commentary, because I've seen those movies so many times. So it's like, I know what happens.
Yeah, but for other people who haven't seen it
But-
before,
But if we're watching a new film, or like a bunch of people in the room have not seen said film, and you are talking through the entire thing, you're taking away the experience for a lot of people. And I got that when we watched Braveheart. That was the last movie that I was like, because it's bad when like we have to keep pausing a movie for people to explain what's going on.
well, no, and that's what happens in Lord of the Rings. That was like the one thing is when we watched the first movie last year,
I was so
everybody
confused.
talked because, and that's why people were so confused.
Yeah. So
But I will say, I like a movie, and like I'm not a huge like, I don't know, Lord of the Rings is kind of like,
You didn't like Harry. Well, you never even watched
I've never
Harry
seen
Potter,
Harry Potter,
or
but, like,
Twilight and stuff like that.
no, but I literally went to the movie theater by myself last year. Do you remember this?
Yes, I did.
And I watched, Return of the King by myself. I was in the theater for 4 hours and 20 minutes by myself at night.
that wasn't a year ago.
Okay, it was last school year. That's how I
Yeah.
equate it. It was my last school year. I want to say it was like April or something of this year. I went to the theater by myself and watched that movie. I've never done that before. It was actually kind of a vibe.
I literally just had a conversation yesterday about how I hate doing things by myself. I really want to see this new Priscilla movie, and
I
really
don't even know what that is.
no one's been it's about Priscilla Presley, but no one's been budging about wanting to go, and I'm like, I'm gonna have to go to the movie theater by myself. Is that something I'm gonna want to do? Anyways, we're now.
We are so off.
We didn't have our 2 minutes of
So off.
craziness earlier.
Anyways,
That's our spiel.
should probably wrap it up.
Yes. Hey, we're good. We're super excited though for the rest of the year. We actually have things planned out, y'all.
Yes,
Look
we
at
do.
us. So just be keeping an eye on all social media platforms for things.
Yep.
And yeah, we're getting ready for that Holly Jolly season coming up here soon.
Yeah.
So
Maybe add some fun things to our regularly scheduled programming.
I love Christmas. It's great. But
Steph is like already ready to celebrate, and I'm just
Okay.
not.
so we're doing some stuff for the podcast that will, well, I guess it doesn't have to require me to decorate, but it's giving me the excuse to start decorating. But I will say, it took me so long. We talked about this several episodes back. It took me so long to start decorating for fall that it's like I am like still in my fall mood right now, but I'm also like,
It didn't help that it was 77 degrees today.
oh, I have not walked outside my
Oh, really?
apartment today.
It was wonderful.
But yeah, so I listened to Christmas music on my way home yesterday. You know what? I did it by myself. There's no one else there for it to bug. It brought me joy. Count it all joy.
Literally, there's this one classroom I go into that the teacher, she's been playing Christmas music since literally the day after Halloween. And I'm not vibing with it. I really am not. Good thing I'm only in there for 30 minutes every day.
Well, anyways,
Man.
sorry, another side tangent.
Yeah,
we love
sorry.
you guys. We will see you next Monday.
Yes.
Bye.
Peace and blessings, y'all.